Hey everyone, today we're looking at my favorite camouflage patterns. Coming in at number 5 is the M90 Splinter uniform from Sweden. This is the M90 L or light jacket meant for summertime use. So it is made out of a lighter material than the regular uniform jacket. I really like the look of this uniform. It's got a unique pattern to it. It's based on an old German camouflage from World War II. It does look kind of strange, mostly because of the bright green colors and the odd shapes, but it is really effective in a forest environment. I don't recommend wearing this uniform in the summertime because it is made out of a thick material. Even though this is the light jacket, it still feels pretty thick. So especially in Japan when it's really humid and hot, I don't recommend wearing this uniform for the summertime. But it does work very well. It does a decent job hiding you in the wintertime as well. This is one of the more unique camouflage patterns that I have. You don't see it around that much, especially for airsoft. So whenever I go to an airsoft field, people always ask me, where did you get that uniform? And it does look strange, but like I mentioned before, it is a very effective camouflage, especially when you're hiding in the bushes or in the trees. I think it's one of my favorite uniforms to wear because it's very comfortable and it's very durable. It's made very well. I think it's just a really interesting camouflage pattern, and that's why it's one of my favorite uniforms to wear. Coming in at number 4 is the M81 Woodland Camouflage Pattern from the US military. I grew up in the US, so whenever I think about the US military, this camouflage pattern comes to mind. I watched a lot of TV and movies from the 1980s and 90s, and the US troops always wore M81 Woodland. I have a Pascat helmet and the Woodland cover, and I have a Pascat fragmentation vest, which is really heavy but very comfortable to wear. I also have a Repro Ranger body armor, also a Woodland boonie hat. And this uniform is for the 1st Infantry Division. It's a ripstop uniform, and it is very comfortable to wear. It is really good in the summertime because it's lightweight, and it really, breathes really good. When I started playing airsoft over 10 years ago, I didn't use M81 Woodland. I started with Multicam, but I kind of wish I did start with this camouflage pattern because it is just really good in the forest. Whenever I use it to play airsoft, the other players have a hard time finding me, and it is just really good in the bushes. I think it is also pretty good in the winter time with the brown colors and all the dead grass on the ground. It still hides you pretty well because of it's a mix of brown and tan colors. Recently, this camouflage has become popular again, especially for people who like the U.S. Marines MARSOC. They use this woodland camouflage in their uniforms, and I can understand why. This pattern has been used for almost 40 years. Coming in at number 3 is the 3-color desert or desert combat uniform from the U.S. military. I just like how simple it is. It only has brown, beige, and a pale green. I have the non-ripstop version, which is made out of cotton and nylon, which is a thicker uniform. I also have the ripstop version, which is a raid uniform, and I also have the cover for the Pascat helmet, but I've only worn this a couple times. I'm really interested in movies like Black Hawk Down, Lone Survivor, and American Sniper. They used the non-ripstop version in Black Hawk Down with the Ranger body armor, which was in a woodland camouflage. Yeah, and I have the raid uniform, which was used by the Navy SEALs. I think this camouflage complements the M81 woodland camouflage pattern very well. When they're mixed together, they just match really well. And I have used this camouflage in the forest, and it doesn't really work that good in a green forest environment, but in the winter time it does blend in well with the brown colors and the dead grass on the ground. But it does a fairly decent job in the summertime as well, because it's it's got the brown and the beige colors in it. I do think the 6-color desert pattern does a better job, especially in the forest. But I usually use this uniform in the winter time or the springtime. But yeah, it just looks really good. It just has a simple design, and I can see why the U.S. military used it for almost 20 years. Before we move on to the last two, I figure we'll take a look at some uniforms which I really like, but didn't quite make the list. Of course, I have to include Multicam. I started out playing Airsoft using Multicam, and it really is a universal camouflage. Just that I got kind of tired of this pattern. A lot of people use it. It's really popular. But I think there are a lot more interesting camouflage patterns out there. I also really like 6-color desert or chocolate chip. It works really well in the winter time, and it's a little bit strange because it has these white and black rocks incorporated in its design. Lastly, we have Alpenflage from Switzerland, and this has to be my strangest uniform, mostly because it has red in it. It doesn't look like much, but it actually does a good job of blending in with the forest environment. But yeah, this is definitely one of the more interesting camouflage patterns I have. Coming in at number 2 is Flecktarn from Germany. I really like this camouflage pattern because you can pretty much use this in any season of the year. I have a jacket from 1999, and it has the old style of colors. And I also have the trousers from 2007, which has a different shade of colors. I also have the cap in a size 62 for my big melon, and I have the helmet cover for the M92 helmet, which I don't have, but it does fit on most Pascat style helmets. I also have the old style 5-piece webbing that comes in Flecktarn. I believe they don't use this harness anymore though. Flecktarn is based on an old camouflage pattern from World War II, and it has influenced some countries, mostly in Europe, like Denmark, which has a dominant green uniform, and Japan, where the self-defense force uses this brown version for the winter, and the green version for the summertime. If you're looking for something like Multicam, but with a more retro-looking feel, then Flecktarn is for you. In fact, Flecktarn was the original Multicam before Multicam became a thing. I would have to say that in the fall and the winter months, it works very well in the tall grass and the brown bushes. But it can also be used in the summertime months when it's all green. It just fades into the background. I have used Flecktarn to play airsoft, and I especially like using it when I am going as a sniper, because I can really hide very well from the enemy players. They always have a hard time finding me, and I also have a hard time finding enemy players who use the Flecktarn pattern, especially the uniforms used by the self-defense force in Japan. The Flecktarn pattern is very old, but it is still in use with some countries today, and I imagine it will still continue to be in use, even though a lot of countries are moving towards more modern camouflage patterns like Multicam or digital patterns. But yeah, I just really like how effective and just how good it blends in with a forest environment. I just really like how Flecktarn looks, and as you can see from all the gear I've gathered over the years, it's become one of my favorite camouflage patterns. Coming in at number 1 is Marpat, used by the U.S. Marines. This is one of the first camouflage uniforms I used when I started to play airsoft. This is a repro version of the Woodland Marpat. I also have a Desert Marpat uniform and a helmet cover in the Woodland version for a Mish 2000 helmet. I also have a flame-resistant uniform, which consists of the combat shirt and the lightweight trousers. The great thing about this uniform is that it's really great for the summertime. When I sweat a lot, it keeps me pretty cool. The really interesting thing about these uniforms is that the U.S. Marine Corps emblem is incorporated in the design of the uniform, as you can see here. I really like the way that Marpat doesn't try to be a universal camouflage. There are 2 different versions, so you have to use them in different situations. I like to use the Woodland Marpat for the summertime, and the Desert Marpat, I can use it during the winter months. But yeah, even if you wear the Woodland version in the wintertime, it still does a pretty good job of hiding you in the forest. I've tested the Desert Marpat in the spring and summertime months, and it actually does a pretty good job because it's still got that brown color, so it still blends in with the environment. I have a lot of fond memories using Marpat when I started to play airsoft over 10 years ago. Yeah, it's just a great uniform to use. Marpat was based on Cadpat from Canada, but it has more brown colors, and I think it just looks a little bit more natural, and it definitely blends in better in the forest. Like I said, I have a lot of good memories with Marpat. A lot of my friends also use this pattern to play airsoft. I think it looks great and it is very effective out in the field, and that is why it is my #1 favorite camouflage pattern. So these are my favorite camouflage patterns. They might not be the best camouflage uniforms, but this just comes from my personal experience using these uniforms. If you want to tell me what you think, please leave a comment below. And what are your favorite camouflage patterns? I hope you all are staying safe, and I hope to make some more of these videos in the future. Thanks again for watching, and on to the next one.